Vinland endures, the timeline where the Vikings became America. They were never supposed to stay. They were supposed to die in the cold or vanish into legend. But in this timeline, they endured, and America became something else entirely. This is one of the most fascinating alternate threads. And yes, there are timelines where the Vikings truly settled and held North America. Let's walk through it carefully. Alternate timeline Norse America, Vinland endures thread. In this branch, the Norse expeditions around 1000 AD, particularly Leif Erikson's journey, were much more successful. Instead of small, vulnerable outposts like at Lanso Meadows, the Norse established multiple permanent settlements along the eastern seaboard, from Newfoundland down into parts of what we call New England. Crucially, they integrated partially with local Native American tribes, particularly the Algonquian-speaking peoples, creating blended cultures rather than endless war. Over generations, these Vinland colonies grew strong enough to resist collapse, unlike Greenland's Norse colony, because they adopted local agricultural techniques and formed intermarried alliances. The settlements were fortified and spread westward faster than expected, hundreds of years before Columbus ever sailed. By the 1400s, Vinlandic kingdoms had formed, fusions of Viking legal traditions, things, all things, and native governance. Old Norse became the dominant language along the Atlantic coast. Pagan syncretism occurred. Odin, Thor, Freya coexisted with native spirit beliefs. There were no Spanish conquistadors because Vinland's warrior federations could defeat European invaders before they could get a foothold. Eventually, instead of an America born from British colonization, you had Vinlandr, a vast Norse native civilization. Flags and symbolism. Most flags bore images of the world tree, Yggdrasil. Vinland were gave over, intertwined with eagle or bear motifs from native totems. Runestones were everywhere, not just in isolated spots like the Kensington Stone, which is itself a faint echo. Summary of that world. Vinland endures. Norse America becomes a great fusion civilization, remembering both the axe and the spirit, both the sail and the soil. Bonus question: were the Norse gods real? And who were they? Yes, in many timelines, the Norse gods were based on real figures, but their true nature was more layered than we normally hear. Many of them were hyper-ancient veiled humans, actual kings, queens, and sages of the Proto-European migrations, older than recorded history. Over time, their legends blurred with astral and cosmic archetypes, becoming mythic figures. Odin was once a real sorcerer king, who also became a vessel for a much older consciousness, tied to the idea of the all-seeing wanderer, linked to Mercury/Hermes energies. Thor embodied a warrior hero who likely unified early Germanic tribes under storm rituals. A real man whose name became synonymous with protection during storms. Freya was likely an ancient chieftain priestess whose teachings about love, death, and fertility echoed outward until she became a goddess figure. Some Norse myths hint they came from an earlier, destroyed homeland. Asgard, Aesir's stronghold, an echo of lost proto-civilizations, maybe even Atlantis's aftershocks. What is the early 21st century like in the Vinlandr's timeline? Here's a vivid portrait. Vinlandr, early 21st century, 2000 to 2025. Culture and identity. The dominant civilization is called simply Vinlandr, sometimes casually the Vinner. Society is a fusion of Norse seafaring values, Native American reverence for the land, and technological adaptiveness. Community matters more than corporate power. Storytelling, oath-keeping, and memory are sacred duties, not hobbies. A person's word, especially an oath, is legally binding at a soul level. Breaking it can exile you not just from a town, but from legal protection itself. Language. The dominant language is a modern form of Old Norse, spiced with Algonquian loanwords and evolving English branches. Example, Frelsmark, Freedom Place, what they call cities. Livstri Dager, Tree of Life Days, national holidays honoring ancestral trees planted by families. Technology. Technology exists. Electricity, communication, even forms of the internet. But it evolved organically with nature rather than ripping it apart. Cities are designed around trees and water, not grids. Instead of skyscrapers, cities spiral around and upward in world trees, living wood structures strengthened by bioengineering techniques. Solar power, geothermal wells, and wind towers are standard, but designed to resemble natural forms, not brutalist factories. Governance. They still have all things, council gatherings, but now done both in person and via secure resonance nets, their evolved internet. Local sovereignty is everything. Centralized authoritarianism was never allowed to take root. Military and defense. Every citizen knows basic skaldic combat, a modern hybrid of Viking shield fighting and native warrior tactics. Defensive ships, called Vardbatar, watchboats, still patrol major waterways, but more for symbolism and disaster relief than war. There is no standing army in the classic sense. Every free citizen is expected to take up arms only in defense of their kin and lands, never for conquest. Spiritual life. Most people are what we'd call syncretic animists. They honor both the Aesir and Vanir gods, Odin, Thor, Freya, etc., and the great spirits of the land, bear, eagle, coyote, whale depending on region. Magic, Cedar, and Wakan is studied quietly and respectfully, not for flashy rituals but for healing, dream walking, and soul anchoring. Every child knows how to read runes and dream glyphs by age 10. Global relations. Europe developed very differently without conquering America. Instead of the colonial empires we knew, Europe fractured earlier into smaller, knowledge-sharing leagues. Africa and Asia retained much more autonomy and advancement. The global atmosphere is less industrialized, more decentralized, and much closer to Earth's natural harmonic balance. That said, challenges still exist. There are tensions between some new Vinlandr city-states over tech ethics, bioengineering debates, resonance weaponization risks, but no nuclear standoff like in our world. Summary of 21st century Vinlandr world. A civilization that chose oaths over corporations. A people who never forgot. The sky tree reflected in the waters below. A world where stories build cities and memories make laws. If you stood in a Vinlandr city today, you would see wood and stone towers spiraling around living trees, with song lines carved into their roots. People walking with braided hair, tattoos of ancestors' names, and woven cords of oaths tied to their belts. Boats in the harbors, shaped like longships, but powered by silent solar sails. Markets full of both cybercraft goods and rune-inscribed heirlooms. Children learning to read both code and poetry before the age of 7. You may not remember this world, not fully, but maybe you've dreamed of trees taller than towers, of longships lit by starlight, of cities that sing when the wind touches their roots. Maybe you've heard echoes of a time when oaths were law, stories were sacred, and the gods still walked the coastline at dusk. This world, Vinlandr, wasn't lost. It was buried beneath 100 layers of conquest and forgetting. But now, something stirs again. A rune flickers in the back of your mind, a song of sails, a whisper of bark beneath stone. The timeline where the Vikings became America never truly died. It just waited for you to remember it. This has been an Echo Timeline archive, curated by the Storybearer, retrieved with Facility AI. Vinland endures. And so do you. Skål.